Here's another really fun gym leader themed deck for the Prop 15 format. So if you're not familiar with that format, hop on over to the video I did on it and get caught up. Out of all of the gym leader themed cards, I think that this particular set of them works the best because the trainers and the Pokemon have the best synergy together. And I'm talking about Blaine. The Blaine trainer card lets you attach 2 fire energy to one of your Blaine Pokemon instead of the normal one. And that pairs very well with something like Blaine's Ninetales, which can heal a damage counter for every fire energy that's attached to it. So what you're doing is every turn you can play Blaine, attach 2 energy to this Ninetales, heal 20 damage off of it, and then use that burn up attack that deals 50 damage, which is pretty great. Then you can use cards like Item Finder and Professor Oaks to get the Blaines back into your hand and do it all over again. Even though Burn Up makes you discard both of the fire energy on it, it's very easy to get those 2 energy back on it the exact next turn, so you're dealing a consistent 50 every turn. And while Ninetales will be your main attacker, Blaine's Rapidash is also an extremely solid card. It lets you deal a good chunk of damage with the added chance of dealing spread damage to your opponent's bench as well. And while these are the only 2 attackers I have in the deck, that's pretty much all you need. The Blaine set of Pokemon aren't nearly as strong as the trainers that are attached to them. Let's get into the full build of this deck and see what it does. We will be using full play sets for Prop 15 of the Blaine's Vulpix and Blaine's Ninetales. Of the 2 Blaine's Vulpix, I just went with the one that had higher HP. The attacks don't really matter as much since you're not ever going to be attacking with one really. They're there just to evolve. And of course the Blaine's Ninetales, we already talked about. It has that great ability that lets it heal off damage counters every time you're attaching fire energy. And a great almost haymaker attack where you're dealing a high amount of damage for just a couple of energy. Same thing with the Ponyta. There's 2 Blaine's Ponyta, but I went with the one that had the higher HP. Again, the attacks aren't going to matter as much because it's there just to evolve into Rapidash. Rapidash has a pretty solid attack for 1 energy, but it's mainly that stomp attack where you're dealing 30 damage and then flip a coin for the chance to deal 10 damage to everything on your opponent's bench. The Blaine Trainer card is also going to have a full playset of those, which is going to let you speed up your attacks a lot more, and it's going to let you heal more damage when you're using it with that Ninetales. I would really suggest using it primarily with Ninetales since there's only 3 copies of it, and only 3 copies of Item Finder that'll let you reuse it. Cinnabar City Gym helps you get over that huge water weakness because you have things like Articuno and Blastoise, potential Misty cards, and if you play this Cinnabar City Gym, it's going to completely negate those to where you don't have to worry about the weakness anymore unless they're playing a counter gym. Professor Oak just helps you get everything you need in your hand. This is going to be the primary way you're going to get your Rapidash and your Ninetales, since the Blaine trainer build doesn't really have any search cards that lets you get those evolutions when you need them. The energy retrieval is going to kind of replace Nightly Garbage Run in this deck because you're mainly just going to want to restock your deck with those energy cards since the burn up attack on Ninetales is going to be discarding 2 of them every turn that you use it. And like I said, Item Finder's in here just to let you reuse those Blaine cards over and over again. Potentially sometimes the Cinnabar City Gym if your opponent keeps discarding them by playing their own gyms. And the rest of the deck is just going to be filled out with fire energy, which actually works out pretty well in this deck. Most Prop 15 decks use way too much energy just because they don't want to overfill on Pokemon and they can only use 15 trainers. So in this deck, it actually works out pretty well because Burn Up is going to be using up a lot of these energy, but it makes it where you don't really have to worry about any energy removals at all. It can get around most disruptions pretty well because even if they're using something like Gust of Wind, you can usually have your setup on your bench pretty far ahead of time, much faster than your opponent because there's only 2 evolution lines in this deck and they're both stage 1s. This particular kind of deck wouldn't work very well outside of the Prop 15 format, which is why I've kept it here. You could substitute in a couple of more things, a couple of different fire types from other trainers. I know that Brock has a Ninetales that has a very interesting ability, but just to keep simple consistency going, this is the build I like to use the most. You may need to mulligan a few times since there are only 6 basics in this deck, but it doesn't matter much. Just one Professor Oak in your hand can help you catch up to whatever your opponent's been able to draw off of those mulligans. But if you do want to fill out the Pokemon base of this deck a little bit more, there are some options. Blaine's Arcanine is a really great card. However, compared to Blaine's Ninetales, the energy efficiency per the amount of damage you're doing isn't as good, and it's discarding a lot more energy, which just leaves it as bait out in the open. Blaine's Arcanine didn't get really good and didn't see a lot of play until after the rotation when Neogenesis came out. You also have Blaine's Charmander, which can kind of mess around with your opponent a little bit. It's got that first Kindle attack that you discard an energy off of Charmander, and in exchange you can discard an energy off of one of your opponent's Pokemon, which early game is really great installing them out, especially if they don't have a really good way to get those energy back, if they're not running multiple copies of Garbage Run, or if they don't have any energy retrieval, which you would have that advantage over them in running 3 copies of Retrieval. The Ninetales from base set's another really good option. Yeah, I keep saying on this channel that it was just a better version of Charizard, so it still works pretty well in this deck. You're not able to get energy on it as fast because Blaine doesn't work on it, but it is another really solid fire type to help even out the deck. Same for Fossil Magmar, but I don't want to be too much of a broken record just saying, oh, it's a fire deck, so throw the Fossil Magmar in there, even though it is really good. And I wanted to keep with the gym leader theme and only including the best of Blaine's Pokemon. So let me know down in those comments what you would add to this deck, how you would run it, and what kind of gym leaders you want to see next. And until next time, bye!